it kind of sounds to me, the way you're describing it, that you have a lot of, like, heavies or DPS or stuff like that, but there's not much for support classes. Don't sail too close to anything, and also be careful if you go up to a lot of the shipwrecks, because some of them are just giant crabs.
Even if they destroy it or anything, you could have it be a recurring thing where it's like, oh, this keeps coming back. So you could have it tied to something greater if you wanted to, or you could just have this be just an anomaly of the world.
Alex, are you spooky today?
I'm always spooky. That's the secret, Captain.
That's the secret, Captain? What's that from? I don't know what that's from.
That's from one of the Avengers movies, right? That's the Hulk.
Oh, okay.
It's the secret, Captain. I'm always angry.
Oh, I'm always angry. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so we're always angry and we're always spooky, and welcome once again to Total Pebble Knockdown. I am Nathan.
I am Alex.
And today, let's see how spooky we can get. Probably not as spooky as you think.
Not as spooky as you think.
No, not at all. At least half the spooks that you're probably expecting. Because we're only halfway there to Spooktown. So.
Spooktown?
Yeah, Spooktown, USA. Funtown, Spooktown, USA. Okay. I know that you've been playing a game recently.
Yes.
That's been in a universe you are very, very aware of. Warhammer.
I'm very aware of the Warhammer universe, yes.
Yes.
I think I got into Warhammer freshman or sophomore year of high school.
Oh, and
so
you're
it's
old
been
now, so,
yeah, it's been since like 2002 or 3. I've been into Warhammer since this was the codex that we used for Chaos Space Marines. This is circa 2002. It's this one.
2002, so that's when it started. And I have seen you play the actual, like, war game before. I've seen you play on the big table.
I don't really play much on the table anymore, but I do have an extensive array of miniatures still and other things.
And so you were very excited for I would say you've probably been excited for a while yet to know that Space Marine 2 was going to be coming out.
I definitely, when I saw it announced, I was excited because I did the 20th anniversary of Space Marine 1, and they put that together, and then I think it wasn't long after that they're like, hey, by the way, Saber Interactive is making Space Marine 2. And I was like, shit, it's been since it came out in 2011, the original one, which was unfortunate for it because it came out around the same time Skyrim did.
Bad timing.
And one of the things with the original one is, third-person shooter, killing orcs, all that stuff. Fine. But the original glory kill mechanic that most people know about from Doom actually was from the first Space Marine game. Killing enemies restores a little bit of health or armor.
Yeah.
Whichever it was.
Yeah.
And then Doom took it and made it really popular. So
I think the thing is that Doom had it as such an integral mechanic to the game that people associated with it. And also maybe just because Space Marine kind of fell by under the radar when it came out, like you said, because of Skyrim. I played a little bit of it, but frankly, compared to what I played of Skyrim, it's no contest. It's no contest. But at any rate, so we're well past that.
Yeah.
And now Space Marine 2 has released to mostly acclaim.
I'm pretty sure all the reviews have been pretty solid for it for the most part.
Pretty positive, yeah.
And they've have over 2 million people who have bought it and played it, which is great. Even if I think even if the reviews were bad, in my personal opinion, I would have not cared. I would have been playing.
No, you would have still gotten it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I enjoyed the story of the first one. It was very, very much a 40k story that was interesting, and they left it on a cliffhanger. And this Space Marine 2 does a great job of continuing where the first one left off. So you've got the cliffhanger, and then 100 years later, because Space Marines live for a long time, and these are the events that happen afterwards. So you're skipping 100 years, and then stuff happens. But it's a continuation of Titus's story from the first one.
Mm.
And it has to do with events in the first one, so it's a really decent sequel.
What are the mechanics of this compared to the first one? Since you've played to the like you mentioned glory kills in the first one, is that back?
Yeah, they're back. They're executions. The gameplay is very similar. They definitely took from the first one and went, yeah, we can basically just do more of this. This style of game will work fine. They've made it a little less clunky, which is great, because tank controls from 2011 weren't that great.
No.
But they're essentially same. It's over-the-shoulder, third-person combat for the most part. You have left-click bound to shooting, right-click bound to melee, and then you can zoom in with scopes if your weapon has a scope to do, FPS, essentially. Okay. Although you do move slowly while using a scope.
Right. You're playing mouse
or
and keyboard.
Or aiming down sights. I am playing mouse and keyboard.
All right. Okay. When you said left click, right click, I was like, oh, you're not talking triggers, so we're not on a pad. All right.
I think I might have played the original game originally on a controller, but I don't remember.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I played it when it was on Xbox, so it would have been, it would have been on a controller. I don't know if you noticed this, just side note for a second, is that when it's a shooter, like a first-person shooter, I do find it much easier to use mouse and keyboard than a controller. Mostly
gives you, it gives you better control of that aiming, I think. Unless you're really used to a controller and have a really responsive controller, so.
Right. Anytime that I have to, be moving and doing things at the same time, especially, I find there's a lot of games that I've played where, they'll ask me to, interact with items and then pick them up or something as I'm aiming, and I find that it's just way easier to do that with keyboards and a mouse, because I can do the two things at the same time, moving and interacting. But then also, for first-person shooters, you have much better control over the reticle than you do with a controller.
So the campaign for Space Marine 2, I'm sure anyone who's watching this has probably seen other videos on it, but the campaign, taking your time, can take about maybe 10 to 12 hours. I would say I beat it in about 12. I take my time and look through every nook and cranny I can find.
Yeah, you're a completionist, kind of. Not like 100% completionist, but you like to be thorough.
Fairly. I like to be thorough. It's the problem with CRPGs is I just want to explore every nook and cranny, and then I never get
around to it, yeah.
This one, the game, so it's a relatively short campaign, which is fine because it means that I have completed the campaign, and I'm not going to sit there and go, I've never completed this game. It's not a 400-hour storyline. It is a maybe 15 hours tops.
Got it.
If you're bad. It is pretty forgiving. And there are a couple decent boss fights, but the campaign is only 6 missions, currently.
Oh, wow, that is short by comparison. Yeah, because usually, I think to, a shooter campaign of, Halo, that's usually, 10 episodes. That's kind of like...
There's 6, they're maybe about an hour and a half each, tops, possibly.
Oh, okay.
There's bits in between missions where you're back on the battle barge and talking and getting some cinematics. You can upgrade. You can swap out your weaponry, for instance. Occasionally, you can change some of that stuff. But on top of the missions that are just the main campaign, they have an operations mode, and this one is closer to, say, Helldivers 2.
Sure.
It's currently, again, they only have 6 operations. There's another one coming out this month, and they plan on releasing more of these down the line as well. So, front load, the game doesn't have as much content in it as I would like, but at least it is replayable content. There is also PvP with 3 different types of PvP and several maps. Hopefully that also expands and improves.
Sure.
But the operations are... either solo or up to 3 players, so you and 2 friends or 2 randoms or 2 bots can play. Even if you're playing solo, you will get 2 bot companions.
Oh, okay. Because it's built for a 3-man team, basically.
Yeah, so it's a 3-man squad, but these are The operations basically are the B plot in this.
Mm-hmm.
So where your campaign is Titus and his 2 guys going around doing their things, he has sent off other squads to do other things that need to be done. So like your first operation is blowing up an oil field to stem the tide of Tyranids, because yeah, that'll work.
Mm-hmm.
And so the operation, you play through that. And what it does is you have the communications, when you're going through the mission, you'll have like the communications voice acting with that squad and making sure they're doing that thing to help you out, essentially. And then as you're playing the operation, you'll get those voice barks from the other side of it too, which is nice narrative continuity, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But the operations are fun because you can pick one of the, I think there's 6 classes right now of Space Marine to play. So you can be a Tactical Marine or a Devastator who's a heavy weapons tactical. It's just kind of an all-rounder. You can be a Sniper, you can be a Assault Marine with a jetpack.
Okay.
A bunch of different kinds of Marines to play. So they have different armor, different special abilities. But in operations mode, you can select your loadout. So each Marine has a bunch of different weapons they can choose from. Not all of them have the same weapons they can choose from. But then you also get the ability to level up, unlock new cosmetic armor pieces, change all the colors of your armor, decorate it however you want, and you can upgrade and unlock new weapons. And this is really fun to me because using a weapon gives a weapon experience, and once you master it, it gets a perk point.
Okay.
So you can kind of customize how your specific weapons function.
Is there any PvP in the game? Like player versus
I did say that. There are 3 PvP modes. They are 5v5.
Yeah.
I think I would like to see that expanded with bigger maps and maybe 10v10 or 20v20 even.
I thought you had said that, but then I was like, you mentioned perk points for individual weapons, so I guess I was just trying to figure out how that balances when it ends up being a PvP.
I don't think those count for PvP. Those are just in operations mode.
Okay.
So PvP, you get to level your different classes up as well, and you can unlock more weapons to use that are more powerful. So the higher level in PvP a class that you're using is, you do kind of get an edge, which their matchmaking needs some work, because having people level 25, level 1s is kind of not fair.
Right. Understandable. Okay, so at least that makes me feel a little bit better. Most of the upgrades, though, are they mostly cosmetic upgrades?
Most of the armor ones, yeah. All the armor upgrades are just purely cosmetic. There's no, like, making your armor actually function better.
Got it. I guess I'm just trying to, like, conceptualize it in comparison to something I'm familiar with, like a Helldivers 2. Like, because that has upgrades that you go through where you're leveling up and you're getting access to more stuff, but then a lot of it is cosmetic. It's different armor looks and flags and banners.
So if you're equating it to Helldivers, then the cosmetic stuff for like the capes and stuff is similar to the way you can do your armor, but the weapons, how you can get new weapons in that, you can do that similarly in Space Marine.
Okay.
But you can also just get perks that are just passive abilities, passively increase different parts of the weapons or how you use them.
Sure.
And then each class has its own perk tree as well. That's not the weapons. It's just, these are all abilities that affect your class, and I think they're all passive, but some of them affect your entire squad, and some just affect you. It's pretty neat. A couple of them I've seen are not very useful to me, at least without using the weapon they're designed for.
Okay, so this sounds a little bit like how you would do loadouts in Helldivers 2, I guess, because there are some things that you equip that are squad-specific upgrades, and then a lot of it is just for you. When it comes to, like, the operations, you're not picking, like, a class as much as you are just picking your loadout?
You're picking the class and the loadout.
Oh, class and loadout. Okay.
Yep.
So the class is more than just what you're equipped with.
Yeah, so it's your armor, how that looks, which is just cosmetic, but you have different armors. It's the ability they use. They have a main class ability. So like the Tactical Marine gets a scan that will highlight all the enemies in the area. and then you can deal more damage to the highlighted enemies.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah,
so
like
that's
a hollow
nice. Also,
sight bonus or something, or tracer lines or something. Yeah.
And so, if I'm playing a tactical marine, I get that as my ability, and then I get the choice of a bunch of different main weapons, and then a pistol and a close combat weapon.
Got it. Okay. Perfect.
So I get to pick my class, and then I pick my loadout, and fight that way. No two players can be the same class in an operation.
Oh, okay.
So you can't just triple down on something.
Right. Okay.
Even though I think that'd be really fun for certain things.
I would think so. I mean, it'd be like if you had like a full squad in like a Helldivers where everybody was just like an explosives expert, which you could just do if you
would just
to.
Excuse me, I'd like to run this as 3 heavies, please. One of us with a 3 of us with just heavy bolters. Yeah.
It's just all fullbacks. Let's just
I am wondering, they are supposed to be adding a new class at some point too for operations, and I'm wondering what it is because they haven't really said what it is. And my 2 thoughts on this are either, well, I guess there's 3, but there's really 2 that I would want. Is either a tech marine who is like would probably be closer to like an engineer of some kind.
Okay.
If you're familiar, they usually have a big servo arm that can do, like, they can lift tanks with their fucking servo arm. They're insane.
Perfect. Nice.
So, like, as a tech marine, you get, like, probably some more high-tech weapons and engineering and armor bonuses and stuff, I would assume.
Sure.
The other one would be an apothecary, which is, a medic.
Oh, so right now there really isn't, like, that kind of a class in the game.
Yeah, there's neither.
Yeah.
Of those. But an apothecary would be fun because healing your allies can be helpful.
Yes.
Or at least finding ways to do that. But they are also just as capable in combat as the rest of the Marines.
Okay. I imagine that might be tweaked in the game just to make it more of a support class than a...
Probably not.
No.
That would be weird.
That would be the reason why they don't want everybody to be the same class, because then you just have 3 apothecaries that are just going to run roughshod and also...
I mean, they could also be like, hey, here's a chaplain, but I don't know how chaplains would be in combat or what they would do, but it would be a support class, I would assume, at that point.
Right.
They could also add, like, librarians, but then they would have to actually entirely add psychic powers for, like, a class to use.
Right.
And that doesn't sound like something they'd enjoy doing.
It kind of sounds to me, the way you're describing it, that you have a lot of, like, heavies or DPS or stuff like that, but there's not much for support classes right now.
Right. I mean, you can help support each other, like Tactical Marine can highlight the enemies. Devastator, the heavy, can, like, deploy a force shield, and if your allies are behind that, they also get that bonus, because it's just in front of you. The Bulwark gets a sword and shield. They're your tank, essentially, but they also have a banner they can place down that, like, helps replenish armor and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun. There's some synergies throughout it that are great. And some of the other ones, like the Assault Marine, doesn't really have a lot of synergy bonus for helping the team in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
But they are also the melee focused, aside from the guy with the sword and shield. He's also melee focused, but the Assault is like hit and run melee focus. Bulwark gets a sword and a shield and a pistol. Mm-hmm. Assault gets a jump pack and several different melee weapons and just a pistol. But their melee weapons are like a thunder hammer, which you can just cleave the shit out of everything with.
Perfect.
And do power attacks, or a power fist, which is also punch things brutally hard, or a chainsword, which is also good at cleaving or doing faster damage. So
your operations are pretty much, you can do those endlessly.
Yeah, they're repeatable. You can up the difficulty. Similar to Helldivers, the higher your difficulty, the better like rewards you get, and then you get like the armory tokens, which will help you unlock higher tiers of weapons as well.
Got it. And do you then upgrade with like higher tiers of operations that you go on that you can use that in, so that you get better equipment? Sort of like the difficulty rating in Helldivers too, where you okay.
Yep.
So it's more confusing. So what would you besides the class part, what would you like to see them add into Space Marine 2 in the future? What features would you like to see included that you didn't get from the experience of playing for 70 plus hours?
I'd want more operations, for instance. I know they're adding more. They're also apparently going to be adding some kind of endless or wave mode, which should be fun.
Like a horde mode, maybe? Like
I
that
think
kind of thing?
maybe, yeah.
Oh.
I know they're also going to be adding new enemies at some point as well, because currently the two enemies you have are Tyranids, which are bugs, and Chaos, which is normal. Orcs are not in this one. My prediction is they're adding Necron, which are the robots. But I don't want them to add Necron simply because then it's too close to Helldivers. Because Helldivers has the bugs and the robots.
Real quick, though, is that, like, a Helldivers 2 thing is that I love that those are, like, the two things that you fight. Because when I was playing it, it was like, you always go to the bugs, and then you feel like you're wiping them out, and they're coming at you. And the second you do the first mission with the robots, you're like, oh, shit. you're running away because everybody...
They're very different.
Yes, they're just throwing mortar cannons at you, like, nonstop, and it's like, oh, no.
So the Necrons would be similar to the automatons in Helldivers. Necrons are soulless robots, like immortal soulless robots.
Perfect. Love those.
Most of them. But they also can come back from getting killed sometimes. So, like, I could see them adding Necrons, because, spoiler for the campaign for anyone who doesn't want to listen, click off now. When you're going down into one of the planets you're on, you go down into, deeper into the mines and stuff and start seeing, like, these ruins on this burial world. And they're all, like, Necron ruins. They don't say it or anything like that, but all the stuff there is very much Necron.
Yeah.
Because if you're familiar, it's got the same patterns, same little circuitry-looking parts on them as Necron do. So I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, I hope Necron are coming up then. Because that'd be great, but they would be a very different enemy than the Tyranid. So I'm hoping they expand that. Oh, one of the things I really want them to do is twofold. I want them to let you play operations as the Chaos Marines. Because they do have models for them in there, because PvP is Chaos versus Loyal Space Marine, because otherwise it would just be Space Marine versus Space Marine, which you could do. You could just call it sparring or something like that.
Sure.
War games. But right now, there's no real customization for Chaos Marines aside from armor colors.
Sure.
Each of the classes only has a specific way they look. You can change all the colors on their armor and stuff, but you can't change how their armor looks.
Yeah. Okay.
Or their weapons. So cosmetics for Chaos would be amazing. The first game had it. You could customize it like crazy.
Yeah.
I hope they add that, because as much as I like how they look, I would like to be able to swap out the armors.
So a few things that they could put into it, but the basic mechanics and gameplay probably doesn't need to be improved or
probably
changed.
Not.
No, that'll work.
It's pretty solid.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fun. If you like it, if you like a game that's not entirely brainless hack and slash, because you do have to pay attention.
Sure.
And can sometimes be rather difficult when you have like multiple zone thropes in there and have to figure out how to kill them.
Sure.
That would be great. Oh, the other thing is finding a way for the Assault Marine to actually kill zone thropes, because currently the only way to kill them is ranged.
Oh, okay.
You can't attack them with melee while they're in the air.
Are zoanthropes like a bird kind of character?
No, they float. They kind of levitate up there.
Oh, they're a floof.
They're floof. They are a pain in the ass. They are siege machines, essentially.
They're a pain in the floof. Is what they are. Okay. Well, that's good. I know that there's been a lot of talk about Space Marine 2. I think people were just really excited about it coming out after all these many, many years. And
14 years later, essentially.
14 years later, and so they finally did it, folks. They finally came out with it, and it seems to have worked out pretty well. But great. So now that you're 70 hours in, you're done playing, right? You're not going to put any more time in?
I'm putting way more hours in.
Oh.
I'm playing it this weekend with a friend.
Here's the question, though, that I have for you, because I think that this is important, because, like, I'm not really in Warhammer. I don't really know much about it or anything. How much information about the world would you really require in order to, get what's going on in Space Marine 2?
You wouldn't really need much information to understand just, like, what's going on in the game. You might not understand all the nuanced information, but you could get the story pretty well. If you hadn't played the first one, you'd be missing out on some of the subtext in there from events in the first one. Like, why is Captain Titus a lieutenant now? Why was he in the Death Watch? All these other things. Why are they talking about him conspiratorially and stuff like that? So you'd miss out on some of that, but you don't really need all the information, like, to at least enjoy the game. They do a better job than Batman v Superman about explaining things. So, also the cinematic quality of the game is pretty great. It looks gorgeous. The set pieces are great. The world building they did, like how things are, how the guards act, how the rubble and everything is gorgeous.
So that's Space Marine 2. Kinda.
Electric Boogaloo.
Electric Boogaloo. We've heard about that. And I guess I would ask if anyone else out there has played Space Marine 2, what you thought about it. You can tell us in the comments below. And Alex will fight you.
Tell me why you think Leandros sucks.
The gauntlet's been thrown down, folks.
Also, side note, if you have played Space Marine 1 and you got into the first part of Space Marine 2 when you met the chaplain, comment down below if you also, like me, went, I bet I know who this is right at the first time you met the fucker. And if you didn't play the first one, you wouldn't know until the end.
It was Agatha all along.
It was Agatha all along.
Yep.
I'm not going to spoil this one. You can do it in the comments. If you don't want to get spoiled, don't read the comments.
A lot of fun things that you guys can argue about when it comes to Warhammer. I know that people love to do that anyway, so let's just do that in the comments instead of the video. Recently, I played Dredge, because I played Dave the Diver, and there's a Dredge DLC for it that's free. And then I was like, oh right, Dredge, I never played that. So then I got Dredge, and I had to play that through. So, anyway, long story short, I powered through it. I played for like 19 hours, and I got...
When you say I powered through it, it makes it sound like you did not enjoy your time with it.
I shouldn't have really put it that way. It's when I usually say I powered through a game, it's basically like everything else just goes by the wayside, and I just play that until I am totally done with playing that thing. Gotcha. Like, I get tunnel vision on a game, and it's like, this is the only thing I'm playing until I am so done with this game that I probably will never pick it up again. Like, that. Dredge is one of those games. Dave the Diver was also one of those games. I basically couldn't play anything else till I was, like, done with that. Dredge was the same thing, and I needed to see it through to the very end. It is a very interesting game. It's like a Cthulhu-inspired... It has definitely Lovecraftian elements in that you're in these sea shanty villages with these, like, kind of monsters and aberrations that are around in the game world. It takes place solely... Like, the game takes place solely in a boat. You're in the boat for the entire time. You're never on land, except when you're interacting with people.
Just like Skull and Bones.
Just like Skull and Bones. Well, actually, no.
I think Dredge was a better deal.
I would definitely recommend Dredge over Skull and Bones, yes. Even though Skull and Bones has places where you do actually make landfall and walk around towns and stuff. It didn't need it, but Skull and Bones is a whole other... We'll do that. Maybe at some point we'll talk about Skull and Bones. But Dredge is a game where basically there are ports of call, and you can interact with some of the people there, but it's... All the gameplay is in the ocean, and the idea behind it is that you're going out into the world, you're collecting a lot of fish, and you can sell them, you find artifacts, and the overarching story is to locate like these 4 precious artifacts that that this guy wants, so that you can go and stop the big ethereal thing that's out in the water. And it has a one mechanic that I think is really interesting that I wanted to discuss, which has a lot to do with the day-night cycle. This has that. Pretty quick day-night cycle, I'll actually say. It does not take long for you to go from one to the other, and a lot of actions require considerable time into it. As night falls, you start to accrue something they call panic. I usually kind of think of this almost as like a sanity meter, which has been in a few different kinds of games. But the panic meter is basically that you're out in the dark, you can equip yourself with some lights and stuff, but they aren't everything. You're still going to start to accrue them. And the panic starts setting in. It's represented by an eye getting bigger and bigger and more bloodshot. And as that happens, stuff in the world starts happening that normally doesn't happen. And one of those things is usually that you are just menaced by monsters that are not normally
There's also,
there.
I think, anomalies.
There are anomalies. So yeah, this is something
I haven't played Dredge in a hot minute, so...
Yeah, you played a little bit of it, so you know some of the basic mechanics. One thing that happens if your panic starts to set in is you can have your floodlights straight forward, and you can kind of like know the layout of like where things are, but a rock or like a cliff or something will appear that was not there before, that you will only notice because you have the light on it, right? So it will change landscapes. Or yes, there will be like birds circling over you in some areas. There's going to be stuff that happens because your panic meter is increasing.
What was your favorite monster/anomaly thing?
The thing that really stood out to me was something I encountered a couple times. My panic was very high, and I'm trying to get back to a port, and I haven't slept. And that's the thing, is that if you rest in any place, you can get rid of your panic. But I hadn't done that. I was going back to the main town. And when you get back into the bay of the main town, there is this, like, glowing white shark that just comes at you immediately and just opens its mouth and just plows through your ship and one shot destroys you because you take enough damage that it just automatically kills. That's if your panic is like at full. The second you get into the bay, it's like the shark just like makes a beeline to you. It's like a glowing white, and it like comes up and just chomps your boat. And it doesn't matter if you've upgraded your entire boat so that you can take like 5 hits, 6 hits, whatever. It just instantly destroys you immediately.
I believe I remember hearing someone talk about this once, but if you try to like leave the bounds of the map in Dredge,
you
know what happens?
Yeah, because I tried that. That, and a giant ass sea monster just comes out and just eats your boat, basically. Yeah,
that one's great.
That is great.
My favorite of the monsters and anomalies was the Phantom Ship.
Oh yeah, you see it off in the distance. Yeah,
and you hear its horn.
Mm-hmm.
And then it starts coming towards you, and it's not a ship. It's an anglerfish, essentially.
Yeah. It's an angler.
And it's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I was like, oh,
this is a problem, and it's interesting because in the middle of all of that, Dredge also presents you with monsters that are actually there.
Yes.
Because there is like essentially a kraken in one of the bays. There are like big fish that will try to just wreck you, and monsters in the swamps and stuff that will attack you, even if you don't have panic. So you're always aware that these things are out there. Basically every one of the different islands around, there's like 4 different island groupings, and there's something in each one of those that you have to watch out for normally. Then in addition to that, you have the panic meter. So as that creeps in, other things start happening that come into it. And it's an interesting system. I think the thing that I wasn't as big a fan was I couldn't really tell how my panic was accruing most of the time. Like, once I realized that there's this eye that's a representation of it, it helped out. But it wasn't very overt, like, am I accruing a lot of panic? How is that happening? I guess it's just, it's dark or whatever like that. And then it just stays with you, especially if you don't get rest. And then, if you get rest, you're in great shape. Something I did find was helpful for me to try and get more time out. I don't know if you tried this, is if you rest, it normally takes you to dawn, normally like 6 o'clock. And what I would do is I would stop the meter a couple hours earlier so that it's still kind of dark out, and I would start out then so that I would get like a couple more hours out there, because not a lot really happens with your panic meter or anything if you just have a little bit of time before dawn. So I tried to play the system a little bit just so that I could get out there more. For the people who have not played Dredge, the way you upgrade your ship is you have a certain amount of space in your hull, and you can upgrade that with materials over the course of time. And you can upgrade different areas that can have engines, lights, nets, etc.
It's a bit of inventory management.
There is a lot of inventory management, which is the reason why upgrading the size of my hull was like my main priority, because I wanted more space for this stuff. But if you have like an engine, just one engine in the back, and you hit a rock or something smashes into you and it damages the section of your hull that had that, you basically don't move in the ocean, because it essentially just takes out your engine entirely. So if you're in the middle of the ocean and you're like fishing there to try and get larger fish, and you damage your hull, that was actually one thing that annoyed me about the game, to be honest with you, is that like just bumping up against a rock or something will cause your hull to get damaged. And
I don't pay attention.
Well, it did make me pay attention, which I guess the game is trying to represent that the world is going to be dangerous, and if they're going to create a panic, that they want you to be kind of panicked or on alert throughout the majority of the game. Don't sail too close to anything, and also be careful if you go up to a lot of the shipwrecks, because some of them are just giant crabs. Hate to tell you that, but and they'll try to kill you again. But I found that the panic meter was similar in function to other games that I've seen, where they'll use more of a sanity system than anything else. And I've talked about Green Hell before, but Green Hell does have a sanity meter where it too will, if your sanity declines, you will start seeing things that are not there. There are tribesmen that will not actually be there, but they can physically damage you. There are voices you start to hear in your head. And this is an interesting series of mechanics, whether you call it the panic mechanic or whatever, of trying to create something that isn't directly damaging to the player, but definitely skews the way the player is viewing the world. Right back to like Eternal Darkness that did this pretty heavily as well. Messing with the player's head, and then having that be like a subsystem to the actual damage. Because in Dredge, the panic never is the reason why you die. The panic...
That's true.
The panic doesn't kill you. What happens is that the panic leads to anomalies, and then the anomalies start to kill you. Yeah. The things that are out there then start to kill you by wrecking your hull, which is the way that you actually die. If you take too much damage in your hull, you die. So that becomes like a subsystem. In Green Hell, the sanity meter just gets so high that basically you start damaging yourself because you've gone insane until you die. But it itself doesn't say, "Oh, you've gone insane, game over," or your panic meter has reached full, game over. So it is not like a main system in that, but it completely plays into the main systems of how you live or die in the game. And since you did play a little bit of this, and I've been talking for quite a while, I was wondering, was that a system that you took to when you were playing Dredge, or was that kind of like a take it or leave it thing for you?
The panic system?
Yeah.
I didn't mind it, especially because you would gain more panic at night, and then if you had your lights off, you'd gain it faster.
Oh yeah.
But you could also find better fish to sell at night.
Yeah, I think aberrations happened more often at night too. Yeah. And there were some fish you had to fish at night in order to complete quests and stuff. Yeah.
So it was a risk reward, but I thought it was good.
Yeah. It actually reminded me a little bit of Dying Light in that regard, because as you know from the day-night cycle in Dying Light, the world changes considerably from what you do during the day to what you do during the night, and it gets much more dangerous at night. But there were some quests and some things that you can only do at night. There are glowing mushrooms and stuff that you can collect for people, but they only come out at night, so you gotta go out there. And then there are underground places where all of the big uber zombies, when they're out during the night in the above ground, it clears them out from the tunnels. So then you can actually do missions in the tunnels, but you gotta get there. So Dredge is kind of like that in some regards, which is that you're going out at night is going to create a lot of panic for you, and to the point where you're going to start seeing things that aren't there. But there are some rewards and benefits, and even some missions and quests to get certain things that you need to do during night in order to make that happen. So I liked the idea, and this is a neat thing, especially with day-night cycles, that the game really changes. Considerably changes how you interact with it during one part of the time that you're playing, and then during the other part of the time. When it was Dying Light, it was that you're going around killing a lot of zombies during the day, and then you have to do basically like a stealth gameplay because you're being hunted when it comes to the night cycle. With Dredge, it's that during the day, everything's good and fine, and I'm going out and fishing. Second nighttime comes in, though, you're on a meter. You're on the clock to get back to a port before these aberrations, these anomalies, just start absolutely messing with your head and cause you to just die out in the middle of nowhere. And even when you get, better lighting, I think I got the best floodlights that are even possible in the game. There's a quest reward for the mythical one that you can get, and I put that thing on there. Even then, there's only so far you can really see. At night, there's only really so far you can see, and even those can go out if you use them too long. Actually, I think that might have been one of the most unnerving parts for me, is I think I was in the middle of the ocean at one point, and the lights go out when you've had them on because the power went out for a second. And now it's uh-oh. That's gonna be a problem.
Weren't there times where your lights could flicker and go out for a minute?
They could, and you had to manually turn them back on. Yeah.
I thought they did a good job with that.
Yeah.
The atmosphere was pretty great.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's a scary game, but I think that it is very on par for the, Lovecraftian, cosmic horror kind of thing that they were trying to do. And cosmic horror is a nebulous term, and it's very different how people want to interpret it. But I usually think of, like, cosmic horror as the horrors that are really unable to be properly described. Like, you know,
that's
the kind
what
of
it
things.
should be.
Yeah.
It's the fear of the unknown and the unknowable.
Right. Which is why I always find it weird when they have, like, a Call of Cthulhu game and the unknowable thing is, like, a big monster with claws. It's like, I know what that is. It's a big monster with claws.
So when they're like, look, it's Cthulhu, it's like, you can't show them Cthulhu.
Yeah, wasn't the whole lore about Cthulhu that if you actually saw Cthulhu, you would go insane and die? I thought that was kind of...
I don't read Cthulhu or Lovecraft, so I don't know that for sure, but I know that...
But I think that's...
He's supposed to be an unknowable and, like, unimaginable horror, so putting something that's imaginable to him is not ideal.
But also, Cthulhu is apparently a giant squid dude. So there's also that.
It's just Davy Jones from Pirates of the Caribbean.
It's just giant Davy Jones. Giant Davy Jones, everybody. The best Cthulhu. The idea that they put into Dredge, which is that, like, the first time you catch an aberration or something, and it's like, oh, what the hell is this thing? This doesn't look like a normal fish. It's like, no, it's not a normal fish, because there's stuff going on here. Right to the end of the story, which I know you haven't played to the end of the story, but the end of the story, which is very much a wrap-up of your main character's story arc, that in very traditional Lovecraftian fashion, no one has a happy ending, don't worry about it. No one comes out of it in good shape. So, congratulations. We've achieved it. Generally, I didn't find it to be overtly, like, terrifying or anything, but I did think that it created an interesting ambiance, especially with, like, the panic system that they have, where you could feel like almost a descent as you were going through it, which I thought was probably the most interesting part of the overall game. Other than that, you know, the fishing thing is fine, it works great, you know, I think by the end, though, I upgraded everything fairly fast, I think. And then I ended up with just more money than I knew what to do with because I had run out of things to buy. So maybe at some point I'll try the expansions, but I hear they're pretty good. And I thought that it was worth talking about during this very spooky time of year because it's a different kind of way to do like a horror game, which is not overt in that way. I would ask if anyone else out there has played Dredge, or have you seen panic systems that are similar to Dredge in other games? I don't think I've seen it implemented quite that way. The closest examples are the ones that I gave, like a dying light with the day-night cycle, or with like a green hell that has a sanity system. So, but you can let us know in the comments down below if there's something else similar to that. Maybe I'll check it out. Alex, we're buying a Stairway to Heaven. Did you know that?
Yeah, bringing me fond memories of 8th grade school dances, thanks.
We're gonna use all of our Patreon money. We have enough to buy
I don't think we have enough to buy a Staircase to Heaven.
Okay, we're gonna have to save.
Usually they're gilded in gold.
Oh, I love it when it's gilded in gold. That's even better. Of course, I guess that would mean that the cost goes up. So.
But we could always pave it with good intentions.
Oh, yeah. Staircases to heaven are always paved with good intentions. Anyway, the reason why we're talking about all of this is because of a phenomenon that you actually made me aware of just recently, which is staircases that are just in the middle of the forest that seemingly go nowhere.
Yeah,
just there.
Pretty strange phenomenon.
Right. Phenomenon. Yeah. Do. Phenomenon.
Can't not do that.
Yeah, exactly.
For anyone wondering, there is actually a series of stories dealing with this idea that you can find on YouTube, for instance. I gave Nathan a link to one a little bit ago for him to check it out. I think the story series is like, I was a forest ranger for the U.S. Forest Service or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
And I've got some stories to tell. It's interesting stuff, not terrible. It's on the creepier side, but not so out of pocket that it seems totally unbelievable.
Right. I think the channel that you had given me was Unexplained Mysteries, which was
sure. I think it's just voice to text.
Yeah,
text to speech.
There are longer videos. I think Wendigoon did one that was...
I was going to send you the Wendigoon one, but it was a half hour long, and I didn't want you to be like, oh, I'm not going to listen to the whole thing now.
Which I think I might do at some point, but yeah.
I would suggest it. I listened to it the other night at work because I was thinking about this. I was like, wonder, and I was listening to it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna suggest this to Nathan. Wendigoon's is great. He had like a sore throat during it, so he's like, excuse my throat and my voice, but
happens.
If you want a comprehensive reading, go listen to Wendigoon's.
Synopsis for anyone who's wondering is that people have run across these, and park rangers have run across it, hikers have run across staircases that sometimes they're just there. No one knows really why, like who put them there or why, but out in the middle of the forest, sometimes just not seemingly going to anywhere in particular. Now, there could be a ton of explanations for this. The immediate thing I was thinking about was like, oh, well, there might have been people that used this area at one point that needed to get from point A to point B or something like that.
Syracuse is needed right in the middle of the woods.
Right.
One of the things that the synopsis I gave you didn't really go into was all the details from the main story, which is fine. It was just kind of a brief overview. One of the things that the original story is like, usually these are like 30 or 40 miles out in the middle of nowhere.
Right. And like
really deep in the middle of the woods where they shouldn't be.
Yeah, and made with like materials that you'd have to like hike out there.
And not just like current trees out there, like lumber, and like he said in the story, one of them is like had a beige carpet on it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And they mentioned that like there was no debris on them at all. They were pristine, looked like brand new, kinda. No leaves or dirt or anything on the carpet or the stairs.
Yeah. So this is like recent or just not used in any
or
regard?
Something weird that's keeping everything off it, kind of.
Right. And I know that there are stories of people that have run across it that didn't really want to interact with it or had a bad feeling after being there because something seems off, or the look that this might be a staircase that was moved from another location and put there. I think
they describe it as like it was like you just pulled a staircase that should be in a normal like suburban house.
Yeah.
And just stuck it in the middle of the woods.
Stuck it in the middle of the woods. So there's some fascinating pictures. I think the ones that are most head-scratching to me are literally the ones that just don't seem to go anywhere. They just kind of like end at a point. Like they just built stairs so that they could be up high in a certain area for a reason. Which we do on many occasions, just build staircases to like observatories or something like that. We have fire towers that are essentially a staircase just to a fire watch station at the top. But it's interesting that sometimes these don't seem to be even like a lookout post or anything. They're just...
Yeah, they're normally not. They're just the stairs and nothing else.
Yeah, they're just there. And so the reason why we wanted to talk about that today was because often around this time of year we like to discuss some spooky or creepy ideas about making a tabletop scenario, making a quest line, something like that you can use for your players. And so on this one, we were going to talk about the idea of having your players encounter a set of stairs in the middle of nowhere, and what that means and how we can utilize it. So, Alex, your players have wandered into the middle of the woods. They're just... We're going to say that they're going from point A to point B. So they're coming back from a quest, they're going back to town.
It's the easiest way to do it, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you cut across the woods, it's going to be quicker than going by the roads because they got to get back from town and their quest line is over here. You happen to cut through the woods, the party says
or maybe they're trying to avoid the roads for some reason.
Or they're avoiding the roads, maybe they're wanted for something. But anyway, the reason is they just decide that they want to go through the woods. Now they're in the middle of the woods, and you throw in a random encounter.
Yeah. And this encounter is with a staircase.
And this encounter is just a staircase. So,
and if Clayton is listening to this video, he's going to mention how I yeet myself off staircases, and that's fine.
Like, how would you describe this staircase?
I mean, you'd want to describe it well, too, of course. You want to set that scene really well. You'll have to be like, as you come in, as you're walking through the woods, like, you come across a clearing, and I don't think you even need to necessarily, maybe you have them roll perception.
Mm-hmm.
Not to notice the stairs, but to notice something off before they arrive at the location.
Mm-hmm.
Be like, as you walk through the woods, you notice that there's no sounds of animals anymore. No birds, no chirping, no insect noises or anything.
Sure.
And maybe almost the sounds of your stepping on leaves and twigs is muted somehow. And then be like, as you continue another 20 feet, you come into a clearing. And in the center of this clearing is this staircase.
So that would be like high perception. I would say that a low perception check, I would almost use it as a throwaway. We're out in the middle of the woods. There's a lot of old growth trees out here, a lot of like leaves on the ground. It's probably hasn't really been touched by people for probably, 10, 20 years, you imagine, that really hasn't been stepping out here. There's a staircase out here, and, but besides that, there's nothing really out of the ordinary. Just kind of like...
Just casually, there's a staircase in the woods, too.
There's a staircase out here. And then the question that you're kind of looking for is staircase attached to some... No, just a staircase, not attached to anything. Just hanging out near some trees.
In my description, it's like you come across this staircase, and I assume the question would be just a staircase. And it'd be just a staircase.
Just a staircase. And then the questions that you imagine are like, does it go anywhere? Is it up high? How high is the staircase?
I want the group that'll just ignore it fully. Honestly.
Yeah, and just keep
then it's like, all right,
along.
Here's just this thing that you should ignore, and by all means you should just stay away from. But players like to be curious.
Yeah.
So, I want the group that's going to go, right, we're just going to continue on. It's like, you're just going to continue on? There's a staircase in the middle of the woods, but yeah, we're just going to keep going. It's like, all right, bet.
Yeah.
And for that encounter, you get 25 XP. Good job.
Yeah.
You beat it.
Yeah, you beat the encounter. I like the idea, though, of, they're going to move on, or they think they don't notice anything about the staircase or something, and then they decide, well, there's nothing here, we're just going to move on. I like the idea if somebody wants to keep being observant and they look back, that they think they see a figure at the top of the staircase, but they can't tell.
That would be good.
But
or maybe if they get a really good perception check before they even reach the spot, you will kind of be like, in the distance, it looks like you can see, through the trees, maybe it looks like you can see what seems to be a staircase with someone standing at the top of it.
Right. And then you get there, and there's nobody at the top of the staircase.
Yeah, it's just the stairs. But then they're going to be paranoid that there's somebody around that heard them coming.
You know what would be interesting is if they're, looking around, if they get, really high perception when they get in there, and then somebody would notice, as you investigate the staircase, you notice that right off of the edge of the top of the staircase, you kick a bone, and it looks like a femur.
See, I was thinking of something even creepier than that. It's like maybe you get into the clearing, and as people look at the staircase, or if they decide to examine around it or whatever like that, you have a roll wisdom save, maybe?
Maybe a wisdom save, sure.
For illusions?
If it's like an attack on them, yeah. Or insight?
No, I don't think insight is what I'd want. Maybe just do a roll for the group, where it's a wisdom save. And what happens is, as they're looking around, suddenly it feels like it gets darker. Just overcast, like a cloud went overhead.
Yeah.
And suddenly around the clearing, you do a make them roll perception check afterwards, and you have them look around the clearing, and there's just dark figures hanging from the branches of trees all around it.
Oh, yeah. That's...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like shadowy dark.
Here's another thought, is you do like the Mario 64 thing, which is that if somebody wants to climb up the stairs, they keep not reaching the top of the stairs. They can't actually get there. It feels like they're just walking continuously. Or they get to the top, and they look around, they don't see anything, and they try to come back down, but they never reach the bottom. The stairs keep pulling them
You've died.
back
Good
up.
job.
Yeah, the stairs keep pulling you back up, and refuse to let you go down.
I think if you want to take this in a lighter turn of events, you could have one of those magic abilities, like a portable hole deal, but not the portable hole, where someone has created an extra dimensional space above the staircase.
Yeah. So there is something there. It's just you can't perceive it, or that there's something interesting at the top. I could see it as an interesting challenge too, to actually get up to the top of the stairs. Like your player goes to go up the top of the stairs, and when they reach that first step, they get like locked in place, and they get asked like a question or a riddle that's supposed to be like a test of their faith for whoever put the stairs there, or a test of their knowledge of the civilization that was there. And you have to keep passing the test as you go like up each step in order to reach the top.
I also think just having them step on that first step and getting a tremendous sense of vertigo would be fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Con save or you vomit profusely.
Oh, yeah. That there's stuff that you're supposed to pass. And yeah, you could do it with saves. I think it'd be interesting to do it with saves. But the idea that, like, these steps aren't just stairs out in the middle of nowhere, but they're tests. And so you have to pass, like, the so many tests, feats, essentially, of your strength and your wisdom and your ability.
I think we're going in different directions of creepiness with this. Yours is like, suddenly it's no longer creepy, it's just a test. Mine is you step on it and you fucking roll a save or you're going to lose your lunch.
But here's the thing, Alex. Here's the end point of that. Is that if you do succeed at these tests where they're like, oh cool, I passed all of the tests, and you get to the top, a figure or a voice kind of says, You've passed the tests, and you are now ready to ascend. And the ascension is essentially that they now kill you, so that you can pass on to their like they want to pull you into the afterlife. Like a hand starts to guide you off the edge, trying to pull you to the afterlife, which could very well, like, you start to see like the image of that other world that they're pulling you into, and it does not look nice. It does not. At that point, it does not look fun.
I think one that would be fun, aside from the vertigo, is maybe you take another step on the stairs. You don't get the vertigo. You pass your check. You go up the next stair. Suddenly, you smell like the coppery tang of blood.
Perfect.
And when you look around, none of you are bleeding. And you look around again, and you notice that the stairs are now bleeding.
Love it. That's always good.
Little terrifying things like that. It's like, all right, well, first I'm sick, and now the staircase is just oozing blood from like the sides of the runs where the stairs meet the siding.
Yeah.
So it's just like a trickle of blood starting at the top and just trickling down.
Yeah. You know what you could do is you have them, like, the stairs are not really anything special until you get to the top. Then you get to the top and you're looking around and you're figuring, oh, okay, so it's just a staircase. And as you come back, you start to realize that you're in a completely different place. And there's the blood, there's the rivers. You don't see the woods anymore. And your party members can't see that player anymore. They're not there.
So here's a question. Aside from, like, maybe people touching and examining going up the stairs, let's say, what happens if the party decides that this is unnerving, let's burn the stairs down?
I think at that point, when it when the stairs start to burn, you hear the echoes of screams throughout the forest.
I was literally actually just thinking.
Yeah.
I think what would happen is you set the stairs on fire and the forest starts to scream.
Yeah. Not really people, but the forest starts to scream. Yeah. In a very unnerving way. You feel like the ground vibrate under your feet. Like there's something very ancient that you do not understand that has occurred here that your party is not aware of.
Maybe as you look around at the screaming, it almost looks like, you know how when you can look through like a copse of trees, and it looks like all the branches are over each other, or maybe it looks the way the light looks is weird. Maybe it just looks like some of the branches are forming like eyes and mouths that are gaping wide and screaming.
Yeah, that would be good. Or you have or as your party looks around, the forest is denser now, and you don't know how to get out of the tree line. There's no path anymore.
Feels like
it's moved.
Forest is just...
Yeah, the forest
gets up and walks away.
Yeah, the forest has changed around you. The paths, you don't recognize the paths anymore. You don't know how to get out.
Suddenly it's nighttime. The only thing illuminating any area around you is the fire of the stairs.
The fire glows a different color. It's purple. It's not like a normal...
Purple of
like
corruption?
That. Or that shadowy figure that we were talking about before. You kind of feel like you see them at the top of the stairs. Like, as that's going on. And they start to... Oh, what are they going to do when they do that? They give you the impression that whatever this was, this horrible, like, curse that has been placed in the woods is now on you. It's no longer attached to the stairs. It's attached to you. This place is with you now.
If it goes dark, I was just thinking would be really fun is the moon. Obviously, if there's a moon up in the sky, it'd be bright now. Everything else is dark. So the moon's not really casting any light in the clearing you're in. But maybe it goes dark for a second, and as you look up, like fully dark. As you look up, you just see the moon is an eye that just blinked.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking, my thought was, you look up at the moon and you see a reflection of the stairs in the moon. Like, you see like the stairs, like, seemingly inverted, like, on the moon. So it's like, that's the other side of it that you're not aware of.
Another question: what if the players are more engineering inclined? What if they disassemble the stairs? What if they decide we're taking these stairs with us?
Okay, so I think I would let them take the stairs apart, mostly because just from like out of character knowledge, I don't know if I would know exactly what I wanted to do at that point in time, but I wanted to keep this rolling. But the next time they go to rest, and the party's asleep, when they wake up, the staircase has reassembled right next to them. They've taken the whole thing apart, they take it with them, they go to sleep, and when everybody is not aware, or has not been observing the staircase reassembles itself.
That'd be interesting. Maybe the wood of the staircase assembles itself into the form of a coffin.
Oh, so it's like an anomalous thing that changes its form. Yeah.
Maybe the staircase reassembles itself, but now it's going down into the earth.
Ooh, yeah, that would be interesting. The staircase, I'm gonna assume, like, we're out in the middle of the woods. Are we thinking that the staircase might be old? Like, I'm kind of thinking, like, of the civilization that was there, they probably would have built this, and it would be of, like, more ancient construction. What would be interesting is if they take it apart, they take it with them, and then when the staircase reassembles, it looks modern to the time of the party. So, like, it has now updated to what is attached to it, essentially.
Just got the new Windows update, and
now it's got the new update. Oh, what if the stairs turned into a window?
Window?
Yeah,
Where are they getting the glass from?
Oh, it doesn't need to have glass, because when you look through it, it seems to not represent the world that was out there before. So there's a possibility. The stairs just reassembled, they look the same, but your party's names are now scribbled on the side of the staircase.
Graffiti.
Yeah, they're keeping names attached to them. It's like those every step is a journey or something, and your party's names are now suddenly like, you know, on there, are just like on the individual steps, something to that effect.
What do you think the end goal of this encounter could be? Just to survive?
I think it's to survive. I think it's more of like a mystery. You've stumbled across a mystery and anomaly that's out in the world, and the goal is to solve it. So like we're talking about like, what if the party does this, or this, but ultimately there's probably something that they could do that would create some kind of resolution where the staircase is no longer what it was, or like that or at least that they are no longer bound to it if they've taken it with them, or they've burned it, or anything like that. That there might be a way to like remove whatever curse this is to the staircase. I think it's interesting is we talked about the idea of like the party just moving on and saying, okay, no problem. But I feel like maybe moving on is the wrong scenario. Like they.
I feel like it's the best scenario.
Yeah, but like my thought process is like, after you've encountered this staircase, it never really leaves you. They keep walking and they encounter the same staircase again in an identical clearing. Like they've gone around. And they've, like, backtracked. Like, they can't get out of the woods until they deal with the staircase.
Like if they encounter it and move on, or don't do anything most to it, I think it'd be really fun to be like, all right, well, that was it. There's nothing else going on with this. And they go on and continue on their journey and stuff. Do a couple things. Couple sessions later, have them, when they're journeying again, come across another staircase.
Yep. And it looks the exact same as the previous one.
It might be a different location, but it looks exactly the same.
Yep.
Just have that be a recurring thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if they destroy it or anything, you could have it be a recurring thing where it's like, oh, this keeps coming back. So you could have it tied to something greater if you wanted to, or you could just have this be just an anomaly of the world.
Yeah.
Like with the story, this is just kind of an anomaly thing, but it's we don't talk about it. Also, don't go near it. Don't touch it. Don't go up it. It's like, we know about these. They're normal. Don't worry about it. Just leave it alone.
I think from a story perspective, if you were really looking to put this into text like that, the end purpose of the staircase is that once you encounter it, you have to be able to walk up the stairs and confront it directly. And until you do that, you will never be away from it. So, like, I guess in, like, a story or, like, a character development standpoint, it's actually about overcoming something. And, like, the idea is that at the top of the stairs is where you actually face your character's actual fear. Something that they actually have to confront.
That's too metaphorical for me. I wouldn't go in that direction.
You wouldn't go in that direction. I probably would. If it were me, I probably would.
Yeah, I'm not you. I'd go in the direction of, oh, okay, so now you're in this extra-dimensional space that looks like an M.C. Escher painting with stairs everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Non-Euclidean geometry in here.
Right.
And you have to find the staircase out.
Yeah. I think, I guess if it were me, I might do that. I might also just make it that the being willing to go up to the top of the staircase is literally the challenge. Is that just nothing special, but being willing to go to the top, look down, and then be able to go back down is essentially just the challenge that's confronting with you, almost like a bridge keeper. Like, the stairs just demand that you walk up them to observe what is at the top, and then walk down, and until you have done that, it will not leave you. It will refuse to leave you. And that maybe when they go to the top, there is a vision, there is like a memory of something. Doesn't have to be scary necessarily, but that there's something that the staircase wants to show you at the top. And until you witness it, until you're willing to actually look at it, it will keep following you until
you could have it tied to somebody's past for sure if you want to as well.
It would be helpful, yeah, if it has something to do with the origin story of one of the characters. That might be the reason why they keep seeing the staircase.
I think it'd be fun if you had the players that are like, maybe you just wanted to do this early on, but you didn't want to have it progress farther yet. Is if the players approached it, then maybe it would vanish.
Oh yeah, that would be interesting. That would be interesting.
So, then again, you can have it keep coming back. I know. I thought this was an interesting urban legend / creepypasta, whatever you want to consider it.
Sure.
Not true story, although I'm sure there are real places in the world that have staircases. Almost in the middle of nowhere, there are ghost towns and abandoned settlements that...
Oh, sure.
It's possible stairs might be the only thing that remains.
Yeah. They have some interesting pictures of, like, the stairs that were probably attached to something at one point, but just the buildings fell down and the staircases remained or something like that.
Or just Photoshop is a bunch of them too.
Yeah, that's also the possibility.
Or video games.
Yeah. Or that there literally was a reason why they built the staircase. That just nobody remembers why. It could have been an outlook. It could have been to get better vantage point on certain areas. But I like the idea of creating a staircase that maybe when you go to the top of it, you do see a scene like, you know, when you would get the recorders in video games where, like, they show you the spirits do something, and then that, like, kind of leads you on a little mystery or something like that. That it seems like that sort of thing, where it's like, put the spirits to rest or something that you could do with just the idea of this very innocuous thing that we all just kind of know about, but in just an out-of-place location that you're not planning on experiencing it. So, but I guess that's all that we can think of for what we would do with staircases. You've probably been thinking about some yourself, so if you have any ideas about how to use staircases to freak your players out or to lead on a little subquest in your game, let us know in the comments down below. I did not think that the staircases would be the final boss, but here we are. Also, maybe they're just a mimic. You know, that seems to be the out for most times. It's
also doable.
Staircase mimic, that's gotta be a thing at some
Step
point.
on it and it eats you.
Step on the top of it, that's where the mouth is. It eats you. It's at the top of a sarlacc pit. These are all pretty standard things that you might do, but if you have a really interesting idea of how you could use them, you can let us know in the comments down below. And so we're almost halfway through spooky season, Alex.
We are. We're gonna have to kick it up a notch. We got another.
We got to roll that beautiful bean footage.
Roll that beautiful bean footage. No, you gotta hit another blam from your Spice Weasel.
Oh, yeah, you gotta do it from the Spice Weasel. It's the best important thing.
It's Elzar.
Yeah. But anyway, if folks wanted to find another place to hit it with the Spice Weasel, where could they go?
If you go to our lovely website where we don't have any Spice Weasels in stock at totalpebblenokdown.com.
We always have Spice Weasels in our hearts, though, and that's the point. But, yeah, you can go there, you can find some of our, it's a landing page for everywhere that we go, but you can also find our Patreon. We have early releases of the full videos over there, as well as additional content that you don't normally get. You can also find us on every podcast app known to mankind. Just please rate and review and subscribe where applicable, and you can find us on social media, the ever-increasing hellscape that it is. I am at Satanium.
I am at EXP Limited, and our show is at Pebble Knockdown.
So check us out over there for all your pebbly needs. And with that being said, I hope you're having a spooky spooky October so far, and we will talk to you even on an even spookier next episode as we approach Christmas, the scariest holiday, where a man in red crawls down your chimney to give you gifts and eat your cookies.
He's been spying on you all year, so...
Yeah, and he has that elf on a shelf that's been narking on you for a while. It's creepy. That's creepy.
We're gonna have an elf on a shelf on the staircase in the woods.
Well, I think we found the scariest thing.
Exactly.
Alright. Thank you for watching, everybody, and we will talk to you next time. Goodbye for now.
Bye!